Hello everyone, I'm very glad that you listened to my story. Please give me a follow and like the video if you enjoyed it. Feel free to comment and provide feedback so I can improve the sound quality. Yes, we invite you to listen to part 9 of the series. Chapter 185, Bad Idea. Chapter 185, Bad Idea. He Jing smiled. The washing machine was just a small, pleasant surprise. In the future, the He family will have something other families have. If He Yuan's chip research proved successful, living in a villa would not be out of the question. Thinking of He Yuan, He Jing's heart softened. How was this big brother who had always been kind to her since she became part of the He family? She had to go to school to see him when she had time. At this moment, in the Cheng family. In the magnificent living room, Cheng Yi hugged Yi Shuping. "Mom, I want to learn ballet." Yi Shuping was already used to her daughter's whimsical ideas. Cheng Yi was unlike He Jing, who wished she could learn less. She was like a curious child who wanted to learn everything. Yi Shuping was very pleased with Cheng Yi's attitude. Her daughter was ambitious, so she had to support her. However, Cheng Yu, who was seated in an armchair to the side, reading the newspaper, said, "Xiao Yi, students should focus on their studies. Your grades haven't improved. You should focus on your studies before anything else." It was clear Cheng Yu disapproved of his daughter's frivolity. "Dad, do you think I don't have talent?" Cheng Yi seemed unable to accept her father's cold words, and she appeared aggrieved and pitiful. Cheng Yu coughed into his papers. "I didn't mean anything like that. The art of ballet was not as easy as most people believed. It took a lot of effort and discipline to learn. If Cheng Yi wanted to do well, she would need to dedicate considerable time and energy if she hoped to do well." He was only looking out for his daughter. Yi Shuping angrily scolded loudly, "Cheng Yu, why are you so harsh on your daughter? You're constantly disagreeing with everything Xiao Yi wants to do. When He Jing was around, you always agreed to whatever request she made. Why do you treat Xiao Yi differently by comparison? Xiao Yi is your daughter, not He Jing." Cheng Yu's face turned red, not from shame but from anger. How was he being harsh? He was doing this for Cheng Yi's good. After all, Cheng Yi was not like He Jing, who was quick-witted and capable. The physics teacher he had just hired for her taught her physics for a few days and told him that Cheng Yi's aptitude was not good. If not for his status and the increase in lesson fees, the teacher would have given up on her as a lost cause a long time ago. Ballet. That wasn't easy. Faced with his daughter's pitiful appearance and his wife's unreasonable demands, Cheng Yu tossed his paper aside and stood up to leave. Cheng Yi sensed the situation rapidly deteriorating and said, "I'm sorry, Dad. I was insensible. I shouldn't have made such an unreasonable request. I don't want to learn anymore. I shall try my best to become as outstanding as Sister He Jing." Cheng Yu stopped and studied his daughter's red-rimmed eyes, his heart melting and anger dissipating. Gently, he said, "Xiao Yi, it's not that I don't want you to learn new things. I'm just worried because you have an exam in a few days. I don't want you to be upset because you don't do well. I'll find you the best ballet teacher money can find once you're in university. How about that?" Cheng Yi had no choice but to nod obediently. She seemed to be moved and choked up slightly. "Okay. Thank you, Dad." Cheng Yi did not like how events had unfolded. She had heard from a servant that He Jing was not good at ballet, so she wanted to try it. Her original plan was to get He Jing to come with her and watch her make a fool out of herself. It would also show Cheng Yu that He Jing was not as good as he believed she was. Unfortunately, her plan had failed before it could even be put into motion. At this point, she could only step back and implement Plan B. When Cheng Yu patted her head, she looked up, training her doe-like eyes at her father. "Dad, Sister He Jing has been with the He family for so long. Should we invite her home to stay for a few days? You're always worried about Sister He Jing, wondering if she's getting enough to eat and warm clothes. Sister He Jing must miss you very much." Chapter 186, Persuasion. Chapter 186, Persuasion. Cheng Yu never expected his daughter to be so considerate and kind. He was extremely surprised. His eyes couldn't help but light up. He was excited and asked carefully and impatiently, "Are you really willing?" Cheng Yi smiled sweetly. Of course. She had already thought it through. Instead of letting He Jing stay in the He family to conquer He Ning and He Sui, bringing her under her nose was better. In any case, with He Shuping around, He Jing wouldn't have a good time, and she could also please Qing Yu. To ensure a complete victory, it didn't seem like a big deal to let He Jing continue to live a wealthy life for a few days. She wanted to see if He Jing could still stay in the Qing family without her identity as a daughter. Qing Yu couldn't stop smiling. He quickly called the butler over and asked him to contact He Jing. Yi Shuping was extremely displeased upon hearing this. She was about to cry from the stupidity of her innocent daughter. No one could lure a wolf into the house like this. She said without thinking, "No. I don't agree. He Jing is no longer a member of the Qing family. She can't stay in the Qing family." Qing Yu looked at his beloved wife and felt a headache coming on. He said earnestly, "It's not Jingjing's fault that she was carried away wrongly. After all, we've been in a relationship for more than 10 years. Can't you be more forgiving?" Yi Shuping was furious. "Forgive? Qing Yu, I'm telling you, I won't be forgiving. How have we treated He Jing all these years? We've provided her with good food, drinks, and clothes. How has the He family treated Xiao Yi? They made Xiao Yi drop out of school to support her brothers. Let me tell you, this matter will never be solved." Qing Yu said helplessly, "But Jingjing is innocent." Yi Shuping was hysterical. She didn't listen to him at all. "I don't care if she's innocent or not. She has to pay back what she owes the Qing family." As the argument escalated, Cheng Yi quickly stopped them. "Dad, Mom, you've misunderstood. The He family has been very good to me. They made me drop out of school because of my poor academic performance and I was ranked at the bottom among my brothers. Moreover, the He family can't afford my tuition fees anymore. They said that as long as my eldest brother graduates and earns money, they will continue to support my education." Yi Shuping thought that Cheng Yi was putting in a good word for the He family. She grabbed her hand. "Xiao Yi, I know you're kind. You don't have to find an excuse to exonerate the He family." Cheng Yi insisted, "It's true." Yi Shuping still didn't believe it. She had seen too many people who favored boys over girls. Each one was more ridiculous than the last. If what she said was true, why didn't the youngest drop out of school? What was the big deal about being 2 years late in primary school? Little did she know that even He Xiaogua had always been ranked first in the class. He was often showered with praises and awards. Cheng Yi was the only one in the family. She had failed a few exams. Despite attempting an arts-focused education path, her grades were still insufficient for university admission. Cheng Yi didn't want to reveal her true academic struggles. She hugged Yi Shuping's arm pitifully and shook it. "Mom, please." Despite being a usually dominant figure, Yi Shuping found it difficult to resist the united front of her husband and daughter. With a determined heart, she pushed Cheng Yi's hand away and exclaimed in frustration, "All right then. But if He Jing bullies you, don't come crying to me." Cheng Yi smiled, "No, Mom, it won't happen." Cheng Yu felt relieved. The matter was settled. Cheng Yu instructed the butler to visit the He family in person to buy more gifts and speak politely. He Jing had a bad temper. She must still be angry after being kicked out of the Qing family by Yi Shuping. She had to be coaxed. Chapter 187, Chapter 187, Pearl Hairpin. Chapter 187, Pearl Hairpin. With the washing machine, the He family's life suddenly became more convenient than ever. The He siblings could finally squeeze out some time to do things they wanted. Even He Zhou only snorted coldly and didn't say anything. He acknowledged He Jing's credit. He Jing planned to send some snacks to He Yuan, afraid that he might neglect himself while engrossed in his research. She originally didn't want He Sui to know about this, but she didn't expect He Sui to catch a glimpse of her when she placed the order. After getting on the bus, He Sui made a fuss all the way, annoying He Jing to the point where her head was spinning. She repeatedly stated that He Yuan had low blood sugar and was prone to problems if he was hungry. He Sui didn't care and kept nagging that He Jing must prepare a portion for him next time, making He Jing feel very helpless. After a while, He Sui suddenly took something out of his bag like a thief. It was a small cardboard box, adorned with a paper-folded heart that resembled a creation from a kindergarten child. He stuffed the small box into her hand. He was afraid that Ning, who was listening to music with his headphones on, would hear him. He whispered, "This is for you." Jing opened it and saw a pearl hairpin inside. It was the kind that cost 2 yuan in a 5 yuan store. She couldn't help but ask, "Why are you giving me?" She wasn't someone who usually wore hairpins. Sui said softly, "Last time when I lost Xiaoyi, I prepared one for her. I'm going to bring it to school this afternoon to coax her. But don't worry, Xiaoyi's isn't as pretty as yours." After saying that, he was afraid that she wouldn't believe him, so he took out the hairpin from the other paper box and showed it to her. All right, if the one in her hand was worth 2 yuan, then the one for Chengyi was worth at most 1 yuan. The pearls were chipped. She didn't know where he had gotten them from. Jing didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Fourth brother, aren't you afraid that she'll be even angrier if she finds out?" Sui shrugged, "I don't care about her. Let's wait until she finds out." At most, he wouldn't admit it. Anyway, he couldn't lose Jing. Jing had to have what Chengyi had. Ning sensed some activity, took off his headphones, and turned to look at the two. He frowned slightly, watching them, and asked, "What are you two doing?" Sui immediately straightened his body and coughed. "Nothing." Ning noticed Jing holding the pearl hairpin in her hand which she hadn't managed to hide yet. He glanced at Sui. "You took something from my drawer again." Good heavens, so he was offering a borrowed flower to Buddha. Sui wasn't the least bit remorseful even though he was caught. Instead, he defended himself confidently, "We're a family. What's wrong with sharing things? You gave Xiaoyi so many things. What's wrong with giving Jing?" Ning suddenly fell silent. He had indeed planned to give this to Chengyi, but he looked at Jing's head. There wasn't a single accessory on it. After 3 seconds of silence, he said, "Wear it." Fourth brother meant well. They might have felt a little indebted to Chengyi, but Jing was their biological sister, so she deserved more. Jing immediately put on the pearl hairpin and smiled brightly. "Thank you, second brother." Sui was displeased. "Why didn't you thank me? I gave it to you." Jing smiled. "Thank you." Sui felt much better. He stared at the hairpin on Jing's head, which was pleasing to the eye. A lovely girl should be adorned with beautiful things. An empty look just wouldn't do. However, Jing looked at Ning. He had been unhappy ever since he came back from the secret room. Though his expression remained aloof, there was a hint of indiscernible melancholy in his eyes, as if he had experienced a heartbreak. Jing could think of a connection. In the original novel, Ning harbored deep feelings for Chengyi. He must have felt terrible when he learned that Chengyi liked Yanhanshi. However, she couldn't help him for the time being. He could only rely on himself to walk out of the pain of his breakup. Unless absolutely necessary, she didn't want to expose this secret and make him even more embarrassed. Chapter 188, Chapter 188, Two Choices. Chapter 188, Two Choices. The bus soon arrived at the station. The three of them got off one after another and went their separate ways. Jing had just entered High School when she heard the news about herself. Before she could figure out the situation, she received sympathy from all sides. Shen Qiuyu walked towards her in a hurry. Her eyes kept wandering around. When she accidentally caught sight of her, she immediately pounced on her as if she had seen a life-saving straw. She was sweating profusely as she said, "Sister Jing, I was looking for you." Jing looked puzzled and asked, "What's wrong?" Shen Qiuyu said, "Subai, that little B*tch, wants to target you." Jing took a moment to recall who Subai was. After a while, she remembered that Subai was the senior who had previously competed for the school bell. Why is she targeting me? It had only been a weekend, and everything was fine. Shen Qiuyu became even more anxious. "Oh, Sister Jing, have you forgotten that Subai likes Brother Shi? She campaigned for the school bell because she wanted to shoot a school promotional MV with Brother Shi. This morning, the High School's photography team came to the school. They plan to start filming this week. How can she not be jealous? Also, we played in the secret room with Brother Shi this weekend. I don't know how she got a picture of us." In addition to the fact that Subai hadn't been selected for the school bell election, and now He Jing seemed to have inadvertently gained a significant advantage. She would be settling old and new scores together. Now, the entire school was buzzing with the news. Subai had declared that today she would make sure He Jing couldn't hold her ground. He Jing was speechless and helpless. It was because of Yan Hanqi again. Yan Hanqi indeed had a captivating charm. He was capable of inciting conflicts every now and then. No one was spared under his male protagonist halo. The pitiful her didn't have the life of the female protagonist, but she took the blame of the female protagonist and trouble kept pestering her. Did she say what she wanted to do? How could she say that? Then there's no need to worry now. If this wasn't a cause for concern, what would be? He Jing said calmly, we'll deal with whatever comes our way. Shen Qiuyu was genuinely impressed. Only He Jing dared to be so relaxed and calmly facing everything that was about to happen. If it were anyone else, they would have jumped up and argued with Subai. Sure, as expected. Of the woman she fancied. Shen Qiuyu also calmed down. She held He Jing's hand and said, Sister Jing, your relationship with brother Shi has developed so much. You're about to shoot the MV. Are you mentally prepared? He Jing was expressionless. Yes. She thought, the hell. Shen Qiuyu was delighted, did you finally win brother Shi over? He Jing said, no, I just want to smash his head. Shen Qiuyu thought, oh. Shen Qiuyu pondered for a moment. It seemed like He Jing didn't have much affection for Yan Hanqi, and Yan Hanqi was known for being quite particular. Would they end up arguing during the MV shoot? But before she could dwell on it further, He Jing had already walked forward. She had no choice but to quickly follow her and enter the class with He Jing. She saw that most of the people in the class had arrived and were discussing this matter. Ever since He Jing became the school belle, she was about to become the class's favorite. Seeing that she was about to be angered, everyone was very angry. They thought, who did those senior girls think they were? What right did they have to bully others? He Jing faced the numerous gazes directed at her, she smiled lightly and shook her head. I'm fine. Wu Yu shouted, I believe in Sister Jing. Anyway, with Yan Hanqi around, nothing too outrageous would happen in school. He Jing was so outstanding that she would be able to face it calmly. At this moment, they suddenly heard a student from another class stretching his neck in from outside the classroom. He said, Student He Jing, Teacher Zhang is looking for you. Teacher Zhang was the form teacher of Senior 2, Class 3. He Jing thought to herself, here it comes. She composed herself and walked out. Just as she left the classroom, she bumped into a lazy and elegant young man in the morning light. Chapter 189, Accepting the Order in a Critical Situation. Chapter 189, Accepting the Order in a Critical Situation. The young man had a pair of long legs that were particularly eye-catching. He wore a school uniform that looked like it was high-end. There was a faint smile on his face, and he seemed to be in a good mood. Especially after seeing a certain someone, that smile deepened. Good morning, merit student. He Jing ignored him and walked past him. Yan Hanqi quickly grabbed her wrist. Where are you going in such a hurry? To the teaching building. He Jing pushed his fingers away and left in a hurry. Yan Hanqi, who thought that their relationship had improved, was speechless. He Jing arrived at the class teacher's office. The class teacher had been waiting there for a long time. He was very excited to see her. He Jing asked directly. Teacher, you were looking for me. The class teacher said, Student He Jing, I have an important task for you. You'll be giving the speech for the flag-raising ceremony this morning as the student representative. Usually, these things were prearranged. Moreover, the school leaders seemed to be conducting an inspection today. The official notice on the school forum had been released as early as last Thursday. It also asked the students to pay attention to their appearance and to present themselves in high spirits on Monday. The originally planned student representative is not feeling well and can't go on stage. After a serious discussion, the academic affairs team unanimously agreed that you are the most suitable. He Jing was expressionless. She felt that something was wrong. Then, the class teacher said, also, other than the school leaders, the city leaders are bringing foreign education experts for a visit today. Therefore, the higher-ups hope that the student representative this morning will give an off-script speech in English. Student He Jing, you are the #1 student in the school and the pride of the entire Yin High School. Other than you, no one else can shoulder this heavy responsibility. She thought, giving an impromptu speech in English in front of foreign education experts. Did the academic affairs team consider her some kind of deity? Student He Jing, I know that this request puts you in a difficult position, but other than you, the teachers can't think of anyone else. You can keep it short, even if you can't speak well, it doesn't matter. He Jing took a deep breath and sighed. Okay, I understand. Wasn't it just an impromptu speech in English? She had passed CET 6 before she transmigrated, so her ability shouldn't be wasted. At this moment, there was a knock on the office door. A young and clear voice lazily came from outside. Teacher, you said that other than student He Jing no one else can shoulder this heavy responsibility. Have you forgotten about me? The class teacher and He Jing turned their heads to look. They saw the young man leaning against the office door frame with his school bag slung over his shoulder, his long slender legs crossed, displaying a leisurely and carefree posture. He smiled, a lazy and elegant smile that resembled a rich playboy. The class teacher was stunned for a moment before he was overjoyed. Yen Hanshi, are you willing to give a speech on behalf of student He Jing? Yen Hanshi looked at He Jing and raised his eyebrows. The class teacher was so touched that he was about to cry. Although He Jing was the new top student in the school and had the experience of giving speeches in Chinese as a student representative, she wasn't sure about her English proficiency. However, Yen Hanshi had actually won an English speech competition trophy. English was like his second mother tongue. Not only was he fluent, but his refined London accent was delightful. If it weren't for his special status, the academic affairs team would have probably considered him the first choice. Unexpectedly, Yen Hanshi was willing to step forward. Too touching. Chapter 190, You're Really a Scourge. Chapter 190, You're Really a Scourge. He didn't even care about He Jing's feelings. He turned to He Jing and said, Student He Jing, since student Yen Hanshi is willing to replace you, let him give the speech this time. He Jing was speechless. Teacher, I can do it. The class teacher looked hesitant. Student He Jing, don't force yourself. He Jing stared earnestly at the class teacher and said, Teacher, I'm not forcing myself. She really wasn't forcing herself. Just a moment ago, someone had aroused her desire to win. Why should she be replaced the moment he appeared? She didn't want to give in to his favor. The class teacher didn't expect He Jing to be so persistent. He suddenly felt that things were getting tricky. He was the one who called He Jing over first. It was indeed inappropriate to replace He Jing as soon as He Jing agreed, but this speech was really important. If Yen Hanshi went up on stage, there would definitely be no problems. He looked at He Jing and then at Yen Hanshi, obviously wavering between the two. In the end, he gritted his teeth and decided to keep his promise and let He Jing go. Anyway, this was the unanimous decision of the academic affairs team. If anything happened, it would have nothing to do with him. Yen Hanshi, I have already promised student He Jing. Let's give this opportunity to He Jing. Yen Hanshi raised his eyebrows. He didn't mind. He casually called out to He Jing with a smile, I'm leaving. There were only 5 minutes left before the flag-raising ceremony. There was no need to stay any longer. He Jing said to the class teacher, Teacher, I'm leaving. After that, she left with Yen Hanshi. The two of them walked side by side in the corridor. He Jing glanced at Yen Hanshi's school bag. You didn't even go back to the classroom. Why did you follow me? Yen Hanshi smiled unhurriedly. I heard that someone came to take responsibility for the troubles caused by me. So I came to take over the responsibility. Is there a problem? He Jing was speechless. No. After a pause, she couldn't help but say with a hint of sarcasm, You're really a scourge. The original student representative was in the same class as Su Bai. Other than being instigated by Su Bai, she really couldn't think of any illness that could happen just 10 minutes before the flag raising. Yen Hanshi's smile turned cold for some reason. I'll handle this matter properly. He Jing couldn't help but say, You're really well informed. You should thank him. If the sudden illness happened 1 minute before the flag-raising ceremony, I might have been called up on the spot. I'm afraid I would have to cooperate with Senior Subit's intentions. Yan Hanshi narrowed his eyes and suddenly lowered his voice. It's been a long time since someone has done such a thing under my nose. He Jing sensed a hint of danger in his words. She frowned and reminded him, you'd better not abuse your power and commit violent acts against your schoolmates. I'm sure you've already experienced the feeling of being detained. Are you concerned about me? You're overthinking it. Yan Hanshi's thin lips curled up. I'm not listening. You're just concerned about me. With the current crisis, He Jing had no mood for idle chatter. The broadcast and the bell rang at the same time. It was time to gather at the field. On the way there, she still had to draft a draft in her mind. However, not long after she left the office, she received the baptism of gazes from all grades and classes. Many peeked their heads out from upstairs to catch a glimpse, showing some curiosity about the commotion. He Jing didn't like such a scene. No matter where she went, she heard gossip. 10 minutes of off-script English speech. What a guy. Looks like it's not that easy to be the top student in the school. If she makes a fool of herself this time, she won't just be famous at High School. She'll be famous in the nearby schools as well. Senior Subai is really ruthless. She's putting He Jing in a difficult position. But it's understandable. She's so close to Brother Shi. Brother Shi belongs to everyone. Chapter 191, Chapter 191, Flag-Raising Ceremony. Chapter 191, Flag-Raising Ceremony. Of course, there were some faintly dissenting voices. They say that Brother Shi is a big shot for everyone. Brother Shi is clearly annoyed by every girl except our sister Jing. You guys are freely fabricating stories behind our backs. Do you really think that our He Jing fan club is open for nothing? However, these voices were soon suppressed by an even fiercer clamor. If you have the time to come here and mess with us, why don't you form a group and write an English speech for your sister Jing? If each of you contributes a sentence, you might be able to come up with an English speech in 5 minutes. As the words fell, laughter echoed through the teaching building. Usually, many people admired He Jing, but many people hated He Jing as well. Only mediocre people escaped hatred. He Jing, who was no longer considered a noble, was still in this noble school and naturally attracted criticism. Many people were happy to see such a thing happen. The students went downstairs one after another, like locusts rushing in the direction of the field, afraid to miss a big show. He Jing walked in the crowd and was caught up by the students of Senior 2. Class 3. Sister Jing, is it true that the teacher asked you to deliver an English speech during the flag-raising ceremony? I heard a lot of people saying. Then what should we do? When the notice was sent, the Senior 3 student representative had already submitted the English script for the teacher to review. He even went back to practice his pronunciation for 2 days. He Jing only received the notice 10 minutes before the flag-raising ceremony. Wasn't this fatal? Even if you can't, you have to, He Jing said. Since it's already happened, then let's face it. Sister Jing. This wasn't an ordinary occasion. Thousands of teachers and students were watching. If anything went wrong, her flawless image would be ruined. He Jing reassured, don't worry. It'll be fine. At this moment, there was a burst of exaggerated laughter ahead. A group of people, varying in height and size, both male and female, walked in front of them. They were all seniors in the 3rd year. They said, Subai's move is really impressive. I guess He Jing must have found a place to cry. Being the school's top student isn't a big deal. She's just a fake heiress. Do you think Brother Shi will stand up for her? I heard that Brother Shi likes her. He won't like her after today, right? They were completely unaware that He Jing was right behind them, and they were talking happily. Students of Senior 2 Class 3 were furious. They're going too far. Shen Qiuyu wanted to rush up and argue with them, but He Jing grabbed her arm and stopped her. Then, another voice came from the crowd. He Jing is quite capable. She scored full marks in the last monthly English test. I think Senior Subai might have shot herself in the foot. Brother Shi will definitely be angry if he finds out. Do you think He Jing can perform well? I don't think so. I don't think so either. Agree a million times. Even if He Jing was the top student in the school, it didn't mean that she could do well at all times. For example, this impromptu English speech was quite challenging. When Shen Qiuyu heard these words, she immediately spat in his heart. Pa. A bunch of trash. Always jealous of others. He Jing was omnipotent. She could definitely do it. Definitely. Even so, Shen Qiuyu couldn't suppress the fear in her heart. She silently prayed to the heavens that He Jing would definitely succeed. The flag-raising ceremony was about to begin. Music was played on the field. In the blink of an eye, it was the national anthem. Everyone waited solemnly. The flag raiser marches up to the flag-raising stage in an orderly manner. The process was impeccable. Then, the political and educational director spoke smoothly. It was obvious that he had memorized the script. The school leaders, city leaders, and foreign education experts had already arrived quietly. They stood at the back of the teacher-student line. Although they weren't very eye-catching, they were still noticed by the sharp-eyed students. Chapter 192, Chapter 192, Off-Script English Speech. Chapter 192, Off-Script English Speech. Wu Yu had been watching from the moment the flag was raised. He had hoped that something would happen to the leaders and foreign education experts and that the student representative's speech this morning would be skipped. However, he was greatly disappointed. He kept glancing at He Jing, and the more he looked, the more worried he became. However, He Jing's face remained calm and composed. It was not until the political and educational director said, "Next, our school's outstanding student, Student He Jing, will come up to deliver a speech." Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, He Jing stepped out of the group, and the atmosphere became strange. The political and educational director was afraid that He Jing wouldn't dare to come up. He took the microphone and said, "Let us welcome Student He Jing and give her a round of applause to encourage her." The applause on the field was thunderous, but the more enthusiastic it was, the more there was a sense of mockery in it. He Jing calmly took the stage and took the microphone from the director. The director heaved a sigh of relief and retreated at the right time. He Jing held the microphone and swept it across the crowd below, without uttering a word for a minute. The people below had already started to stir. Some were anxious, some were gloating, and some hoped that this damn flag-raising ceremony would end soon. However, most of them couldn't cover the voices of the people standing around Su Bai. He Jing is done for. She can't say anything. If this continues, the teacher will have to step in. I saw Brother Shi just now. Brother Shi was watching from below. As long as this speech doesn't succeed, even if He Jing damages our school's image in front of foreign experts, the higher-ups will definitely replace the female host of the promotional MV. At that time, it will be Senior Su Bai who takes the stage. What he said was true. Other than He Jing, who else could be better looking than Su Bai? They couldn't just find two ugly people to act in the promotional MV. Cheng Yi stood below the stage and looked at everything on the stage in amusement. She didn't expect He Jing to have such a day. Another 30 seconds passed, and He Jing still hadn't spoken. When the director, who was waiting below the stage, saw this situation, he panicked. He quickly went on stage and wanted to urge He Jing to say a few words in the name of testing the microphone. With so many people watching, it wouldn't do if she remained silent. The school leader's expression was already very ugly. However, he didn't expect that just as he stepped onto the steps, the person on the stage suddenly spoke. The crisp and cold female voice spread through the microphone, clear and bright, reaching everyone's ears. It was a very fluent and pleasant English. Her pronunciation was like a native European, yet retained the charm of an Asian girl. Every syllable sounded like a radio broadcast playing on a comfortable afternoon, refreshing the heart. Good morning, students and teachers. In the minute I was silent just now, I wonder what qualifications I have to stand on this stage. In this talented high school, there are many powerful seniors and sisters who are better than me, but I think, what is more important than study is excellent character. It is an honor for me to stand here and express my feelings. Her tone was so steady and her voice was so distant, as if she was in an unimportant meeting. Everyone fell into a state of fantasy and disbelief as they looked at the young lady who was shining brightly on the stage. All of them were stunned and all of them were in awe. It turned out that the top student was really omnipotent. Many people who wanted to see He Jing make a fool of herself now felt as if they had been slapped in the face. They wished they could find a place to bury themselves. Chapter 193, Chapter 193, Public Criticizing. Chapter 193, Public Criticizing. They actually thought that He Jing had been put in a difficult position. They were too naive. In the future, even if someone said that He Jing had an extra organ, they would believe it without a doubt. Even if someone said that she had transmigrated from the future, they would only say, wow. Meanwhile, the smiles of the Year 3 students who had surrounded Su Bai and mocked He Jing had all frozen on their faces. One of them was the first to react. Senior Su Bai, it seems like He Jing is subtly criticizing you. Su Bai thought, what did she mean by character was more important than studies? She was honored to be standing on stage. Doesn't that imply that those who didn't get on the stage have character issues? Then, she listened to the second half of her sentence. I don't have many learning methods. It can only be said that hard work is the only shortcut. People with bad minds will eventually fall behind others. She clearly emphasized the word bad minds without batting an eyelid. There was no doubt that He Jing was openly insulting them. Su Bai, who was wearing a miniskirt, threw the half-sucked lollipop on the ground in anger. This He Jing. Senior Su Bai, calm down. We'll settle the score with her later. As He Jing's long speech was full of cadence, time ticked by. As the required 10 minutes for the speech quietly elapsed, thunderous applause erupted from the audience. The foreign education expert stood in the last row and spoke in a clumsy Chinese accent. I didn't expect that there would be such an outstanding student in your school. Her English is very good. It's just like us. The school leader who was accompanying him felt his face glowing with pride. He felt refreshed like a spring breeze. He said humbly and politely, Mr. Williams, you must be joking. This is just an ordinary student of our high school. The foreign education expert immediately gave him a thumbs up. Your students are impressive. The school leader extended his hand and said, Mr. Williams, let's go somewhere else. The vice principal followed behind the two of them. He was keen-sighted and promptly suggested increasing scholarships. He Jing was such an outstanding student. He definitely couldn't let her drop out of school because of poverty. When the flag-raising ceremony ended and the broadcast music started, all the students awakened from their dreams and realized what an outstanding speech they had heard. If someone recorded this and posted it online, it would surely go viral. Shen Qiuyu rushed onto the stage and hugged He Jing's arm. Sister Jing, you're awesome. He Jing smiled faintly. Really? Shen Qiuyu nodded her head like a chicken pecking at rice. Without much thought, she said, Sister Jing, you're so bold. You actually openly mocked Su Bai on stage. Those of us in Senior 2 Class 3 who understood it all laughed. I bet Su Bai didn't even understand. As soon as she finished speaking, a bright sneer sounded from the side. Heh, looks like someone thinks I, Su Bai, am retarded. Turning around, she saw Su Bai leading a group of supporters over. Her beautiful eyes were extremely cold, and there was a vicious aura surrounding her brows. This posture clearly showed that she wanted to settle scores, and it was the kind that wouldn't stop until blood was shed. Shen Qiuyu didn't expect Su Bai to hear what she said. To think that she still had the face to come over and play dirty behind her back, bullying the weak just because she was a year older. She retorted, we only treated you as a retard, but you treated Sister Jing as a pushover. We're the same. He Jing looked straight at Su Bai and said indifferently, I've never been one to hold grudges. If there's a problem, I prefer addressing it on the spot. Su Bai sneered, you sure have a tough mouth. You're not afraid of trouble. Oh. A languid and magnetic voice that sounded like the sound of a zither suddenly cut in. It carried an imperceptible coldness. What kind of trouble are we talking about? Let me experience it too. Chapter 194, Chapter 194, A Unique Way of Expressing Anger. Chapter 194, A Unique Way of Expressing Anger. Su Bai's expression changed. He Jing turned her head and saw a tall and slender youth standing not far away. A dark light flickered in his phoenix eyes, and coldness filled the air. The corners of his lips were curled up for no reason, and they were stained with a bloodthirsty intent. Su Bai was deflated on the spot. She quickly walked up to Yan Hanshi. I was just trying to scare her. I didn't mean anything serious. Yan Hanshi glanced at her arrogantly. He walked past her and stopped in front of He Jing. He said, "Go back to the classroom first. I'll handle the rest." Although He Jing didn't need his protection, she couldn't be bothered to refuse. She nodded and left with Shen Qiuyu. Wu Yu had been observing the situation from the side. He was waiting for He Jing to get in trouble, so he would immediately go to the teacher to ask for help. Now that he saw her coming over, he immediately went up to her. "Sister Jing, are you okay?" "I'm fine." "That's good." After the first class in the morning, He Jing's impromptu English speech went viral. This video was uploaded to the school forum and immediately became a hot topic. Originally, everyone just wanted to copy the sentences to prepare for their future English compositions. But as they watched, things seemed off. Then, a post titled "On the 108 Ways of a Top Student's Counterattack" instantly became a hit. The hit post meant that it was the essence of the thread. There were many comments and it was very popular. Some busybodies translated He Jing's speech into Chinese, and everyone couldn't help but exclaim, "F***ck." Was this the unique way of expressing anger for a top student? It was quite something to insult people with an English essay. This was too showy. In the future, scolding people like D***mn and F***cku seems outdated. If they had the ability, they could insult someone in English on the stage. Not doing so for at least 5 minutes would be a disservice to their literary cultivation. Then wasn't Senior Subai very angry when she heard it? That was more than anger. If they put themselves in her shoes, they would probably explode with anger. After all, Subai's grades weren't bad, or else she wouldn't have been the originally chosen student representative. Impressive. The students from the other classes expressed amazement and said, "This is like a public confrontation with Senior Subai." Moreover, Senior Subai hasn't even struck back yet. He Jing is simply a heartless little cannon. However, Senior Subai seems to be quite close to some shady people. Do you think Senior Subai might F***ck, He Jing is in trouble? Just as everyone was enthusiastically discussing this matter, a post suddenly pushed the top student's post down. It was an official announcement from the school. Subai of Senior 3 Class 1 has violated the school rules. The school will now issue a notice of criticism and demerit punishment to her. If there is a repeated offense, she will be expelled from school. Students are advised to take this as a lesson and remember it well. In high school will not become a breeding ground for campus bullying. All those scrolling through posts froze for a moment, then quickly came to a realization. Good heavens, they actually forgot that the In High School bully was a standard moral guardian. The school single-handedly swept away the bullying phenomenon in High School and the 8 nearby streets. Now He Jing didn't have to worry. With Yan Hanqi's protection, Subai wouldn't be able to do anything. Soon, they shifted their attention to another matter, and that was the school's promotional video was about to start filming. Since Yan Hanqi hated girls getting close to him, there might be a lot of fun to watch. At the same time, He Jing was also thinking about the same thing, because she had received a new script and found that she had a ridiculous amount of intimate scenes with Yan Hanqi. For example, the first scene was a scene of holding hands. Chapter 195, Promotional MV. Chapter 195, Promotional MV. He Jing remained silent for a while and said to Shen Qiuyu, who approached to take a look at the script, "I have something to attend to. I'll leave for a while." Shen Qiuyu was surprised. "Sister Jing, where are you going?" He Jing didn't reply and left the classroom in the blink of an eye. Half an hour later, He Jing returned. She looked unhappy as she held the script. Shen Qiuyu asked, "What's wrong?" He Jing said, "Nothing." It turned out that the scriptwriter adamantly refused to change the script. She said that these scenes were very important and used a bunch of inexplicable professional reasons to convince her. Little did He Jing know that the scriptwriter had suddenly become a Jingyan couple fan after her off-script speech in English. Therefore, she couldn't let go of such a rare opportunity to indulge in some sugar. Absolutely not possible. In the blink of an eye, it was Wednesday, and the school's promotional video officially started filming. The filming team was hired by In High School. The makeup artist and prop artist were all present. The filming location was initially selected to be a classroom, a grove, and a field. Some other scenes were quite unique to the school and would be mixed in through post-production. In short, everything was well prepared. In order not to occupy the students' time and not delay their studies, the promotional MV was carried out multiple times. Every time. It was chosen during physical education class and morning exercise. Hee-jing received the MV's female lead's outfit. It was a brand new school uniform that would be distributed to the students in the fall. The school uniform retained the style of a suit but had a more chic design. When Hee-jing changed into it, the entire filming crew in the dressing room couldn't help but exclaim, "Wow." The makeup artist smoothed out the creases on her skirt and smiled. "With such a cute school uniform, would you mind temporarily dyeing your hair black? It would make you look even more adorable." Hee-jing frowned. Actually, she liked her chestnut-colored hair very much, but in order to cooperate with the filming. "No need, it's fine like this." Outside the temporary dressing room, a tall and long-legged young man walked towards them. His entire body seemed to glow. In order to highlight the texture of his clothes, the color of his school uniform changed from dark brown to black. This mysterious color complemented his fair skin. He was like a flawless piece of jade, extremely stunning. Hee-jing was distracted for a moment. Yan Hanshi walked up to her. "This is beautiful enough. But your hair colors are different. You might not look good together. Then dye mine the same color as hers." Yan Hanshi said casually, "My female lead doesn't need to accommodate others. I'll do it." The makeup artist was obviously stunned. Then, she seemed to have understood something. She covered her mouth and laughed. She said, "That's fine. Anyway, society is open-minded now. Dyeing hair isn't a bad habit. It's fine as long as you wear the right makeup. It can also make you look very youthful." "Okay." Yan Hanshi smiled. "Did you bring your hair dye?" "Of course, I'm a professional." The makeup artist gave her assistant a look, signaling her to take out the hair dye from her bag. She then said, "Go dye your hair first. I'll do the makeup for the female lead." Yan Hanshi raised his eyebrows and said to Hee-jing, "I'm leaving." Hee-jing, unexpectedly pampered, held back her laughter and replied, "Go ahead." She didn't expect a 25-year-old auntie like her to be doted on by someone, even though the other party was a little childish. It was just a matter of dyeing her hair. There was no accommodation. Forget it, he was happy too. Perhaps he just wanted to dye his hair and deliberately used her as an excuse. Chapter 196, Chapter 196, Waterloo. Chapter 196, Waterloo. 10 minutes later, Hee-jing's makeup was done. The makeup artist put the lipstick back into the tube and looked at the girl's face in the mirror. Unable to resist a tinge of jealousy, she said, "We're both women. Why isn't my skin as good?" Before she met Hee-jing, she had planned to put on makeup for Hee-jing for half an hour. After all, she had to cover up the flaws on her face. However, when she laid her hands on it, she realized that Hee-jing's face wasn't imperfect at all. She didn't have freckles or fine lines. She only had a face full of collagen and youthful beauty. Hee-jing smiled and said, "Thank you." Seeing that Yan Hanshi hadn't returned, she picked up the script and looked at it again. She had never acted before, so she was inevitably a little nervous. She was afraid that she would forget her lines in a while. After an unknown period, she was suddenly patted lightly on the shoulder. Hee-jing subconsciously looked back, and her breathing froze. The young man behind her had changed into dazzling chestnut-colored hair, as if he was blessed by the sun, attracting all the elegance. The ends of his hair were dancing with fine light, like a prince who had walked out of a comic book. Under the reflection of the light, her long and narrow phoenix eyes turned into a sexy brown. His thin lips curled up slightly. There was a hint of nonchalance in his unruly manner. After seeing Hee-jing's expression, that nonchalance gradually turned into interest. He waved his hand in front of her. "What's wrong?" Hee-jing came back to her senses. She averted her eyes and said calmly, "Nothing. Where are the others?" She thought, D***mn, as expected of the male lead. He looked too superior. Yan Hanshi chuckled. "They went out to get ready for the shoot. They saw that you were so engrossed in memorizing your lines that they didn't want to disturb you." "Oh." He Jing still dared not look at him, afraid that the D*MN law of novels would make her infatuated again. So she left the dressing room without looking at Yan Hanshi. Yan Hanshi felt somewhat neglected, and he couldn't help but raise his eyebrows in confusion. Could it be that the hair color he chose was ugly? All right then. When the two of them went out, the filming crew was already prepared. The first scene of the promotional MV was set in the school grove because it was the place that attracted the most imagination. Nowadays, enrollment promotion follows a routine. The old-fashioned group of students shouting, "XX school welcomes you," was no longer popular. After the team members confirmed the details, the shooting of the promotional video officially began. He Jing followed the script and the director's instructions. She slowly entered the frame from the end of the forest and walked toward the male lead, Yan Hanshi, who was leaning against a tree with a book covering his face as if he was taking a nap. A gentle breeze blew, and the girl's leather shoes rustled against the leaves. She bent down and prepared to open the textbook on the young man's face. Suddenly, the director shouted, "Cut! Student He Jing, please adjust your expression and show a sweet smile like your first love." She has been single since birth. How could she reveal a sweet smile like her first love? It turned out that the greatest Waterloo in history was here. She was too careless. However, He Jing had no choice but to comply because the director had made a request. After a short silence, she forced a smile. The director said, "It's too stiff." He Jing adjusted the corners of her mouth to make the smile widen. The director then said, "It's too fake." After that, there was a burst of suppressed laughter in the grove. Only a serious male voice sounded continuously. "It's too cold. No feelings. Let's start again." He Jing adjusted her smile a dozen times in front of the mirror, only to be mercilessly rejected each time. The young man who was leaning against the tree finally couldn't hold it in anymore. He shook his arms with laughter and pushed the book away from his face. He narrowed his eyes and smiled warmly. "Merit student, have you never been in love before?" He Jing glared at him in embarrassment. "What about you? Are you experienced?" Chapter 197, Chapter 197, Scene. Chapter 197, Scene. Yan Hanshi choked. "No." He Jing said, "That's it. Laugh again." Yan Hanshi thought for a moment. It didn't seem impossible. The director seemed to have a new idea. He gestured at the scriptwriter. "Come here. Let's modify the script." Anyway, it was just a promotional MV and not a movie. There was no need to be overly critical of the plot. As long as it could make people feel like they wanted to go to Een High School after watching it, it would be fine. The scriptwriter immediately went forward and discussed it with the director. After a series of thunderous modifications, the scriptwriter handed the new script to the two of them. He Jing became the one resting under the tree, and Yan Hanshi changed to be the one who removed the book from her face. The scene of Yan Hanshi holding He Jing's hand after removing the book from Yan Hanshi's face also became the scene of Yan Hanshi bending over and pressing his face down after removing the book from He Jing's face. The two of them looked at each other affectionately, and the background was beautiful and romantic sunshine. The lines remain the same. "Everyone, take your positions." He Jing was speechless. Is this really okay? She thought, was this really not a scene from a melodramatic youth drama? Receiving her skeptical gaze, the screenwriter pushed up her glasses and said calmly, "I'm a professional scriptwriter." He Jing said, "All right." Thus, under the director's guidance, He Jing sat on the ground with her back against the tree trunk in a more elegant posture. Soon, a new problem arose. The skirt of the new school uniform was too short. This caused He Jing's long and fair thighs to glow in the pile of green leaves after she sat down. In that emerald green color, the girl's overly fair skin was eye-catching. Who could focus on the plot? Just by looking at her legs. Oh no, just by looking at the beautiful sister. Even He Jing couldn't help but frown. She covered her leg with her hand, hoping that it wouldn't be too conspicuous and that it wouldn't make the music video look erotic. Before she could voice her concern to the director, a jacket fell on her lap with a whoosh, covering her completely. Find a stool for her to sit on. Photoshopped off the stool later. Yan Hanshi, looking excessively handsome in just a white shirt after taking off the coat, said. All the filming staff thought, editing isn't omnipotent. Don't be so willful. Sitting on a stool and photoshopping it would turn into He Jing sitting in the air. Anyone could tell that something was wrong. Besides, other than the professional makeup artist and props team hired by Ian High School, the director, scriptwriter, and editor were all students with less advanced technical skills. The director called, scriptwriter. The scriptwriter said, I'm here. She had a hard life. She felt that this scene wouldn't be good. 5 minutes later. The director said, Student He Jing, can you climb trees? She thought, what kind of production team did she join? Yan Hanshi couldn't help but laugh again. He rarely saw such a rich expression on He Jing's face. It was really interesting. He Jing glared at him fiercely, then said professionally and seriously, I can. The director said, I knew that student He Jing was so amazing. She would definitely be able to do it. All right then, we'll all step aside later and student He Jing will climb up the tree, which is the trunk, and sit there. Remember to tidy up your school uniform. He Jing nodded and looked back at the tree. There were branches, so it wasn't difficult to climb. Yan Hanshi's eyes were filled with mockery. Merit student. Good luck. He Jing couldn't be bothered with him. Following that, under the director's instructions, everyone turned their backs to avoid accidentally seeing He Jing when she climbed the tree. They thought that they would have to wait for a long time, but unexpectedly, after just 2 minutes, a calm female voice came from behind. Done. Everyone turned around and saw He Jing sitting on a tree with a book in her hand. Her beautiful hair was gilded by the sunlight, giving her an otherworldly beauty. Chapter 198, Chapter 198, Do you dare to jump down? Chapter 198, Do you dare to jump down? For a moment, they thought they had seen the goddess Venus and were in a daze. The whole scene was incredibly beautiful. There was no need to look for an angle to feel the natural beauty overflowing from the lens. The director was satisfied no matter how he looked at it. He nodded repeatedly. Very good. Zoom out the shot. We won't need to capture student He Jing's cold face. It was the male lead's turn. His scene changed from unveiling the book on the girl's face to calling her down from the tree. Then, the girl accidentally fell into the male lead's arms. Come, lay the mat. Perfect safety measures were necessary to prevent any accidents. However, Yan Hanshi looked up at the girl on the tree and asked with a smile. Merit student, do you dare to jump down? He Jing lowered her head and looked into his eyes. She could clearly see that the young man's eyes were filled with clear spring water, flowing with dazzling and fine ripples. His eyes were more confident and dazzling than the sun, and his smile was brighter than the spring breeze. It was as if a stone had been thrown into the lake in her heart, causing ripples. She said lightly, why wouldn't I dare? The tree branch was only 2 meters away from the ground. It wouldn't be a problem for her to jump down. Yan Hanshi slowly uttered a syllable, oh. He Jing threw the book away and jumped. She heard the faint sound of wind blowing past her ears. The props team had yet to lay down the mat. The director and screenwriter's pupils constricted and their hearts stopped. They shouted, danger. Then, all the commotion became inaudible. She fell into a warm embrace and couldn't help but close her eyes. The young man's strong hands caught her firmly. The faint scent of hormones on his body mixed with the smell of sunlight soaked her, making her feel as if she had fallen into a gentle giant net. He Jing opened her eyes. The gentle sunlight that shone through the tree branches fell into her beautiful eyes, making her squint involuntarily. The young man's cheerful and clear voice sounded from above, you really jumped. He Jing met his gaze and was silent for a second. Then, she jumped off him expressionlessly. You told me to jump. You jumped when I told you to. Merit student, do you trust me that much? Yan Hanshi smiled. If I can't catch you, you'll fall to the ground. She hadn't really thought about that. Somehow, she was certain that he would never let her fall to the ground. Of course, He Jing couldn't say this out loud. Otherwise, a certain school bully might be arrogant. The director was stunned when he saw this scene. He thought, oh my god, what kind of godly scene was this? He hurriedly looked at the cameraman and asked, did you capture it? Did you capture it? The cameraman replied, yes. The film has been running continuously without stopping. The director quickly moved closer to the camera and saw that the thrilling and romantic scene was recorded truthfully. The overwhelming sweetness of the campus couldn't be blocked. He had almost forgotten that he was filming a promotional MV and not some youth campus idol drama. This is it. There's no need to lay the mat. Let student He Jing and student Yan Hanqi redo the dubbing in the post-production. After saying that, he craned his neck and shouted, scriptwriter, come over and modify the lines. The screenwriter was speechless. On my way. He Jing never expected that because of Yan Hanqi's joke, the scene that gave her the most headache was completed. Then, He Jing and Yan Hanqi shot a few more scenes. They didn't find it difficult to get into character again, and the shooting of the Grove was completed smoothly. Chapter 199, Gain Weight. Chapter 199, Gain Weight. The time for the morning self-study session passed in a flash. He Jing was called over by the class teacher after she finished filming the MV. According to the vice principal's instructions, the school was going to give He Jing an additional scholarship. At the same time, she was asked to find out if He Jing was willing to speed up her studies. If Yin High School could nurture a genius who could skip grades and study consecutively, obtain an advanced degree early, and become famous around the world, then Yin High School would be invincible among the top elite schools in the next 10 years. At the same time, they could also get rid of society's impression of lazy and unproductive behavior in aristocratic schools. He Jing felt that she wasn't a rare genius in the world. She still knew how good she was, but she relied on her foundation before she transmigrated to the book to shine. He Jing politely declined on the spot, "Thank you for the school's cultivation, but I don't think I have the capability for now." The class teacher was persistent and tried to persuade her again and again. Regardless of capability, student He Jing has to give it a try. The school will provide top-notch one-on-one tutoring for you in the best learning environment. With student He Jing's intelligence and wisdom, as long as you focus on your studies, you will definitely succeed. He Jing was somewhat tempted. The one-on-one tutoring by a famous teacher and the best learning environment were things that she had never had in her previous life. If she could continue her studies with her meager foundation, she could achieve even higher accomplishments. But in the original novel, these belonged to Cheng Yi. Even if she agreed, this opportunity would end up in Cheng Yi's hands. He Jing thought about it. In the end, she couldn't bear to refuse. "Teacher, can I have some time to consider?" The class teacher sensed a glimmer of hope and quickly comforted her and consoled her. She took out the advanced teaching materials that she had prepared earlier from under the table. He Jing flipped through it. It was all mathematics, Olympiad math, calculus. The class teacher said, "These are the third-year math textbooks and workbooks. Take them back and take a look first. See if you can accept the difficulty." He Jing had gone through the senior year already. He Jing already had an answer in her mind. However, she didn't say anything and took the teaching materials with her as she left. When she returned to the classroom, her classmates who were about to start class crowded around her. They stared at her clothes and the things in her hands and chattered. "Oh my God, is this our school's autumn uniform? It looks good. Sister Jing, what are you holding in your hand?" "Advanced mathematics." "Sister Jing, do you want to skip a grade?" In the crowd, Yan Hanqi looked at her with a smile. He Jing felt as if she had been seen through. She averted her eyes and hid her hands behind her back unnaturally. Cheng Yi, who was sitting in her seat, watched as He Jing was surrounded by admirers. She subconsciously clenched her pen and bit her lower lip. The opportunity to film the school's promotional music video should have been hers. The new school uniform should have been worn by her. She should be the one being admired by everyone. Now, they all belong to He Jing. Just wait and see. Sooner or later, she would snatch all these halos. Thinking of what was going to happen later, she smiled lightly without any trace of displeasure. After school, He Jing packed her bag and prepared to go home as usual. A box of yogurt landed in front of her. A young, magnetic, and clear voice penetrated her eardrum. "Merit student, shall I walk you home?" It was very seductive. He Jing didn't even look at the yogurt and asked, "Where did you get it?" "Someone gave it to me." "I don't like yogurt." "I don't want it." Yan Hanqi said somewhat helplessly, "Fine, I bought it for you." Only then did He Jing look at him. "Why did you buy me yogurt?" Yan Hanqi pondered for a moment. After a few seconds, he replied, "You're too light to carry. Drinking yogurt might help you gain some weight." Chapter 200, Not Going Back. Chapter 200, Not Going Back. She thought, what was wrong with him? Wasn't the aesthetic standard of today's society fair, slim, and youthful? He actually wanted to fatten me up. Yen Hanshi smiled at her speechless expression. He stared at her dry lips. "And you look thirsty." She was busy filming and studying, so she didn't have time to take a sip of water. He Jing touched her dry lips, realizing they were a bit parched. She quickly took out lip balm from her bag and applied it. Then, she picked up the yogurt and threw it into her bag. She said quickly, "Thanks." It was just a bottle of yogurt. There was no need to be pretentious and refuse. Yen Hanshi felt refreshed and thought to himself, "I'll buy a whole crate tomorrow and keep it under the table, ready to supply anytime." When the bus arrived at Goldfish Ridge, the sun had already set and the sky was getting dark. Heisui handed out the pearl hairpin, only to be met with Ching Yi's disdain. At that time, there were many onlookers. She seemed to be so embarrassed that her face turned red. She took the pearl hairpin and left without even saying thank you. If it was He Jing, she would be extremely calm. She would open the paper box that he had personally folded and put it on without changing her expression. Then, she would say, "Thank you, fourth brother." At the thought of this, the discomfort in his heart disappeared. It was fine as long as his biological sister didn't despise him. What did it matter what others thought? He Ning still seemed distracted. He Jing had been paying attention to He Ning's movements. He hadn't said a word the entire way, and his melancholic mood from the heartbroken clearly hadn't improved. Suddenly, he stopped walking and looked up. He Jing followed his gaze and saw a luxurious car parked by the side of the road. The headlights were bright, and a well-dressed middle-aged man was standing in front of the car with a big gift box in his arms. The middle-aged man walked up to her and greeted her, "Mississippi." This voice immediately aroused Heisui's vigilance. Heisui rushed to He Jing and protected her firmly. He said with an unfriendly expression, "Don't call me that. We don't have any miss here." He Ning frowned and scolded, "Fourth brother, be more polite." How could Heisui be polite? Their He family didn't have rich relatives. This person was obviously sent by the Qing family. Any association with the Qing family wouldn't lead to anything good. The middle-aged man's gaze bypassed Heisui and looked at He Jing behind him. He said gently, "Miss, Master misses you very much. These are all sent by Master." As he spoke, he opened the gift box in his hand and handed it over. Inside were expensive diamonds and jewelry. The female supporting character in the original novel loved this kind of thing the most. There were a total of 4 pieces in the box, which added up to more than 2 million yuan. He Ning's expression changed. He noticed the hairpin in the box, also made of pearls. Each pearl on the hairpin was round and full. Even in the dim light, it emitted a weak and crystalline luster, appearing very precious. Compared to the one that Heisui had secretly taken out from his drawer and given to He Jing was like the difference between a beer bottle and jade. Apart from the similar color, everything else was inferior. Heisui also noticed it. He subconsciously turned around to look at He Jing's expression, afraid to see any hint of excitement on her face, as it would trigger a deep sense of inferiority in his heart. However, He Jing showed none of it. He Jing's eyes were very calm. She stared at the glittering luxuries as if she were staring at a few roadside stones. Before he could start to worry, she had already said, "Tell Uncle Qing that I miss him too, but I don't need these things. Take them back." Chapter 201, Change Her Back. Chapter 201, Change Her Back. Heisui heaved a sigh of relief. He suddenly felt more confident. He said to the middle-aged man, "That's right. Who cares about your Qing family's things? Take them away quickly." The middle-aged man, Butler Cheng, was deeply troubled when he heard this. He refused to take his hand back and said again, "Miss, there's no overnight feud between father and daughter. Master is genuinely worried that you might not be living well in the He family. That's why he sent me to bring you back to stay for a few days. Last time, Master scolded you over the phone because Missy cried, and he felt uneasy about it. He insisted I come to apologize on his behalf. Miss, please come back with me. Madam has also agreed. He Sui instantly exploded. What's wrong? Isn't it enough for the Qing family to have one daughter? Do you want a second one? Let me tell you, don't even think about it. He Jing is a child of the He family. She will never go back to the Qing family. He Ning also said coldly, although our He family is poor, we don't seek to climb higher. Please go back, and don't come again in the future. Butler Qing had thought that it would be easy to complete the task with these gifts. Hearing He Sui and He Ning repeatedly obstructing him, he couldn't help but lose his patience. He subtly couldn't contain his anger and said condescendingly, young masters of the He family, Miss has lived in the Qing family since she was young. Whatever she eats and uses is the best. What the Qing family can provide Miss is something that the He family can never achieve in this lifetime. If you really regard Miss as your sister, I hope you won't be too selfish and hinder her from embracing the father-daughter relationship she desires. He Sui and He Ning suddenly fell silent. Their faces turned green and red as they looked at He Jing. The butler was right. The Qing family's conditions were far superior to those of the He family. It was simply a world of difference. It was normal for her to want to go back. Anyone with a brain would know what to choose. In terms of kinship, He Jing had a deeper connection with the Qing family. There seemed to be no reason for her to stay. Even if it was just for a short stay, she could regain her dignity as a rich young lady. The He family couldn't do anything. Then, would He Jing go back? They were both nervous and terrified, and their hearts were filled with great unease. They didn't know when it started, but they were already used to He Jing's existence. If they couldn't see her. I refuse. On the deserted roadside, a crisp female voice sounded. It was like the sound of nature. He Sui and He Ning were both delighted, unable to hide the joy on their faces. He Jing looked up at the butler and said calmly, after my misplaced life returned to the right track, I no longer have any kinship with the Qing family. The Qing family can't be so cruel as to not leave a daughter for the He family. I'm only a member of the He family. In the past 18 years, I'm very grateful to the Qing family for raising me, but the He family has also wholeheartedly raised Qing Yi. We don't owe each other anything. My brother is right. Although the He family is poor, we don't seek to climb higher. I'm very satisfied with my current life. I hope you won't come again. Butler Qing was left speechless. He stared deeply at He Jing and found that the once willful and charming expression on the girl's beautiful face was now replaced by an icy and indifferent demeanor. There was no going back. Really, there was no going back. Butler Qing had watched He Jing grow up. He felt a wave of sadness. He sighed deeply and put down his airs as a butler. He glanced at He Sui and He Ning and said, Miss, I know you've been honest since you were young, but you shouldn't be too impulsive. If the Qing family wants to use Miss Yi to exchange you back, do you think they won't agree? Certainly not. Back then, when Yi Shuping called the He family to blame her for Qing Yi's crying, he had already thought about how she would be treated by the He family. He didn't believe that a person wouldn't feel distressed over their sister, whom they had doted on for many years, and choose to believe in an outsider. Although life in the Qing family might not be as good as before, Qing Yu loved her from the bottom of his heart. No matter what, it would be better than being in the He family. Chapter 202, Chapter 202, I'll support you. Chapter 202, I'll support you. He Jing paused and fell silent. The air froze. If the Qing family was willing to exchange Qing Yi for He Jing, would they agree? He Sui thought to himself that of course he wouldn't agree, but there were still other people in the He family. Putting aside He Zhou and He Yi, just considering He Ning beside him, he couldn't refuse. He knew how much he liked Qing Yi. If Qing Yi could come back, he would immediately nod his head even if there were 10 He Jings. He thought, F***ck. Why be so cruel to He Jing? He Sui was a little depressed. He Ning stood rooted to the ground and his lips pressed tightly together. His gaze fluctuated, emotion swirling in his eyes. After a long while of contemplation, he finally opened his mouth. Just as he was about to say something, he was suddenly interrupted. He Zhou and the other brothers of the He family heard the commotion and walked out of the corridor one after another. He Zhou took in the situation at a glance and mocked coldly, "Oh, so lively. Are we having a party at night?" Although He felt that He Zhou's words were unpleasant, he understood what was going on when he saw the luxury car and the gifts. He thought that He Jing had probably nodded in agreement. He asked calmly, "Is the discussion over?" "If it is, go home, Xiaogua is waiting for you all for dinner." He Chen had one hand in his pocket. He smiled and didn't say anything as he watched the situation develop. Butler Qing saw that the matter couldn't be discussed anymore. He sighed deeply and said to He Jing, "Miss, please think about it carefully. I'll come to you another day." With that, he got into the luxury car and left. He Jing didn't mind He Zhou's sarcasm, but He Sui couldn't hold it in anymore. It was like he had taken some explosive substance, and he burst out, "He Zhou, can you speak properly? Donate your mouth to the hospital if you don't know how to speak." He Zhou was taken aback, his temper flaring up. He retorted, "He Sui, did you take the wrong medicine?" He Sui pulled He Jing's hand and said, "Ignore them. Let's go back." He Jing was both touched and amused. She followed He Sui into the building. When He Xiaogua came out, she called out softly, "Sister." He Sui also classified He Xiaogua as one of those traitors who might make Cheng Yi replace He Jing. He forbade her from touching He Jing and simply pulled her around. He brought He Jing into the room. He Sui sat down by the bed angrily and said indignantly, "He Jing, don't listen to that old thing's nonsense. Even if others agreed to exchange Xiao Yi for you, I wouldn't agree. You're my sister, my only biological sister. I can't exchange you for anything. I'll have the Qing family's money too. Just wait, I'll go earn money tomorrow." He Jing asked with a smile in her eyes, "Fourth brother, do you know what you look like now?" "What do I look like?" "Like a frog." All that was missing was the croak. He Sui wasn't in the mood to joke with He Jing. He stood up. "I'm serious." He Jing softened her smile a bit and gazed earnestly at him. "I believe you. That's why I didn't take the butler's words to heart." He Sui finally felt a little better. He lowered his head and muttered, "If they want to exchange, I'll take you away from the He family. I'll take care of you. Whether it's working or dropping out of school, I have hands and feet. I can definitely afford to support you." He Jing didn't doubt He Sui's words at all. She said half-jokingly, "I think fourth brother will definitely become an amazing person in the future." He Sui asked, "Really?" He Jing said, "Really?" The uneasiness in He Sui's heart finally subsided. He blushed and felt a small sense of accomplishment. You have good taste." Then, he began to think about how he could earn money to support He Jing. He thought for a long time and finally came up with a solution. He left with a sentence and left like a gust of wind. In the blink of an eye, he was gone. At this moment, in the living room, He Jing really said that. He frowned and asked. Chapter 203, Chapter 203, What Can't Be Lost. Chapter 203, What Can't Be Lost. No wonder He Sui was so agitated just now. With things turning out like this, who wouldn't be worked up? He Zhou sneered. He Jing was really scheming. Butler Qing only wanted to bring He Jing back to the Qing family for a while. Of course, He Jing wouldn't agree. After all, her time in the Qing family was temporary, while her place in the He family was permanent. Even someone with a bit of sense wouldn't hurt her own brother's feelings for short-term gains. Just like that, He Sui could still be moved to such an extent. Did he think that they had mistreated He Jing? If Butler Qing had brought He Jing back to the Qing family today, He Jing would probably have gotten into a luxury car and left without looking back. She definitely wouldn't have any trace of nostalgia. He looked at He Chen, then at He Ning. He asked, "What do you think? If the Qing family is willing to exchange Xiao Yi back, will you agree?" He Chen pondered for a moment and said, "It's up to the decision of the older brothers." Although he was more inclined to He Jing. He Ning hadn't spoken for a long time. He lowered his eyes, lost in thought. Everyone's eyes were on him. He suddenly stood up and said, "I want to talk to He Jing." Then, he walked toward He Jing's room. He Zhou was inexplicably furious. He said angrily, one after another, really obsessed. He said, "I still want Xiao Yi to come back. Although He Jing is good, we don't seem to belong to the same world. One lived in an ivory tower. The other struggling for basic needs. When He Ning entered He Jing's room, He Jing was concentrating on her homeworld with her hair tied in a bun. She was engrossed in her writing until He Ning walked up to her. She looked sideways and smiled lightly. Second brother. He Ning stood in front of her, his starry black eyes were shrouded in a hazy mist. He stared at her and stood there for a while before saying, "Don't take what others say to heart. We didn't mean it that way." "What do you mean?" "Exchanging you for Xiao Yi." He Jing was a little surprised. She hadn't expected him to come over specifically to explain this matter. She waved her hand and said, "I didn't take it to heart." She knew the general sentiments of the He family members, and even if they considered exchanging her, she wouldn't be too upset. After all, to her, they were just a group of brothers who had appeared out of nowhere. He Ning had thought that He Jing would take it to heart. However, she didn't look like she was. He frowned slightly and pursed his lips. He couldn't help but ask, "Could it be that everything you said just now was a lie?" In fact, she still wanted to return to the Qing family. She didn't mind if they considered exchanging her. He Jing thought for a moment and countered, "Then how did second brother feel when you heard that?" He Ning fell into silence. What was he thinking? He thought that compared to a love that had ended without a cause, he couldn't lose his own sister. Butler Cheng's visit caused the atmosphere in the He family to stagnate like never before. It was the same for the Qing family. When the butler truthfully conveyed He Jing's words, Cheng Yu's face stiffened. Yi Shuping screamed, "What an ungrateful wretch! Cheng Yu, look at what you've raised." Cheng Yu took a deep breath and interrupted her angrily, "Enough. If you hadn't been so ruthless previously, Jingjing wouldn't have ended up like this." Yi Shuping's face twisted with anger and shouted, "Cheng Yu, what are you talking about? Are you blaming me? If she wasn't a child of the Qing family, she shouldn't have taken over the Qing family. What was wrong with her kicking He Jing out of the Qing family?" Cheng Yu recalled the determined look in He Jing's eyes after she woke up from the hospital after committing suicide. His chest ached. Was he going to lose his daughter forever? At this moment, a weak and timid female voice sounded from the side, "Dad, why don't I move out? Sister He Jing must be unwilling to come back because of me. Please don't argue because of me." Chapter 204, Chapter 204, Substitute Trainer. Chapter 204, Substitute Trainer. Yi Shuping opened her beautiful eyes. "How can this happen? I won't agree to it." She pushed Cheng Yu and said sternly, "You have a good and understanding daughter, but you only think about that He Jing." Cheng Yi took another step forward. "Mom, actually, I feel very guilty too. It feels like I stole something from someone else. As long as Sister He Jing is willing to come back, I'm willing to do anything." Cheng Yu was touched and guilty at the same time. He felt less guilty towards He Jing. He looked at his own daughter and sighed, "Forget it. If she doesn't want to come back, then so be it. Dad still has you." Cheng Yi sobbed as she called out, "Dad." She looked very touched, but she was extremely upset. She thought, He Jing actually refused to come back. How was this possible? It was easy to go from frugality to extravagance, but it was difficult to go from extravagance to frugality. Could He Jing really abandon the luxurious life that the Qing family offered? Cheng Yi was convinced that He Jing must be pretending. Who would willingly become the ugly duckling when they could be a beautiful swan? She didn't believe it. The failure of the plan only fueled Cheng Yi's determination. She couldn't let He Jing outshine her. She truly didn't believe it. The school's promotional video took 3 to 4 days of shooting before it finally ended. He Jing realized that it wasn't easy to be the female lead. However, a 5-minute promotional video actually required so many shots. Each aspect of the production was indeed challenging. He Jing looked through the teaching materials given to her by her class teacher and reviewed the knowledge of the 3rd year of high school. The questions weren't difficult, and it wouldn't be a problem for her to go straight to the college entrance examination after revising for a period of time. On the other hand, He Sui was tinkering with something. He didn't go out for the entire weekend except for meals. He Xiaogua sneaked over and told her, "Fourth brother is playing games." Playing games? He Jing was stunned. Her expression changed drastically and she immediately went to He Sui's room. She opened the door and saw He Sui swiftly manipulating the mouse. He uses the QWER keys with his left hand to press the enemy character on the screen to death in the bushes. There was no doubt that this was the new and popular game, Justice League. It was a 5v5 team game. He Jing walked up and asked coldly, "What are you doing, fourth brother?" A voice suddenly rang out behind him. He Sui was startled that his hands trembled. He lost his grip on the mouse and was hit by a series of skills from the enemy mage. He turned around and panicked. He hurriedly threw away the mouse and stood up, saying, "Nothing." From the laptop, an unfamiliar male voice came through the speaker. "Substitute trainer, be more professional, okay? We're about to be attacked." When He Sui heard the man's words, he impatiently said, "I'll be right there." At the same time, he dared not look at He Jing. He shifted his gaze away guiltily and whispered, "I just want to make some money." He Jing looked at him expressionlessly. He Sui had long been mentally prepared. When he saw that He Jing was about to get angry, he lowered his head listlessly like a frosted eggplant and said, "I won't delay my studies, He Jing." He Jing remained silent. The men in the laptop continued to roar, "Where's the substitute trainer? Is he dead? Hurry up, the enemy has taken the high ground." He Sui was about to shout back when He Jing suddenly bent down and said, "Stop this game. How much did you pay him? I'll pay you back double." The man who was playing the game didn't expect to encounter such a situation. He was speechless and cursed again. "Stop pretending to be rich. If you have money, can you be a substitute trainer? I'm giving you guys a bad review." He Sui was anxious. He tugged at He Jing's sleeve and said, "Don't do that. He bought 10 games and I had to play 5 for free. It's already a good deal, don't give him money." He Jing didn't say anything else and directly closed the game. Without the sound of the game, the room became silent. Every moment of silence was like torture. Chapter 205, Chapter 205, Famous. Chapter 205, Famous. He Sui dared not look at He Jing and quietly played with his fingers. Until He Jing asked, "Fourth brother, how much money have you earned in the past 2 days?" He Sui instantly raised his eyebrows and grinned. "I earned more than 200 yuan. He was skilled at gaming and confidently defeating teams of 4 opponents. Those foolish gamers queued up to send him money. Therefore, he earned much more than other substitute trainer." He Jing asked, "In cash?" He Sui nodded heavily. He quickly took out the money from his wallet and stuffed it into her hand. He said as if he were presenting a treasure, "They are all students from the nearby schools. They dare not owe me. Keep it for me. We might need it later." He Jing didn't know where his sense of crisis came from. He wanted to make money, so she didn't accept it. She stared at him seriously and asked, "Fourth brother, do you like playing games?" In the original novel, he became the esports king. When he debuted, he reached the pinnacle of success and was a legend. He won many championships. But that was because he wanted to support his family, not because he liked it. Maybe not. However, as soon as this thought flashed through her mind, He Sui said disdainfully, "I don't like it. What can I do by playing games? I want to be a government hacker and eat the country's meal. That's the real honor." When He Jing heard this, she felt extremely upset. "Then," she said sternly, "then, you're not allowed to play games in the future. Otherwise, I'll confiscate your computer." He Sui widened his eyes. "You gave this to me?" He Jing said, "I gave it to you so that you can do something productive, not play games." He thought. All right then. He Sui couldn't argue with He Jing. He Sui was very depressed that his source of income had been cut off. He pouted unhappily and said, "What if the Qing family comes to pick you up? You're not allowed to go back." He Jing thought, oh. So he was still thinking about this matter. He Jing remained calm and said, "The Qing family won't come again." "Is that so?" He Sui remained skeptical. After receiving an affirmative answer, He Sui's sorrow turned into joy. He threw everything to the back of his mind and promised, "Okay. I will never play games in the future." If it wasn't for the fear that He Jing would be taken away, who would be willing to be a substitute trainer? They had to sit for several hours a day, and their hands were sore. He Jing asked, "Where's second brother?" He Sui replied, "He went to auntie's house with the third brother, fifth brother, and sixth brother. There's no one else at home today except the two of us." He Jing replied with an "oh," and said casually, "Then I'll visit auntie's house when I'm free." Unexpectedly, He Sui frowned. "No, you can't go." He Jing was puzzled. "Why?" He Sui refused to answer in detail. He mumbled a perfunctory "nothing" and dismissed the topic. It was another week of flag-raising ceremony, and the boring life began. As soon as He Jing arrived at school, she was surrounded by people, and there was a cacophony of chatter in her ears. She couldn't pick up any words from the noise when Chen Qiuyu pushed the crowd aside and squeezed in front. He Jing looked at her flushed face and asked, "What's wrong?" Chen Qiuyu shook her phone. Her hands were shaking with excitement. "Sister Jing, you're famous now." These days, she had been immersed in reading the teaching materials. How would she know that the school's promotional music video had been edited quickly and posted on the forum? It had become a hit. It wasn't just the Een High School forum that was trending. Even the forums of other high schools were exploding. Almost everyone was asking, "Who is this girl?" He Jing clicked on the promotional video and took a glance. She saw Yan Hanshi, who was tall and slender, taking the lead. He wore a black school uniform like a royal prince. He walked in the forest covered with fallen leaves in the summer sun. He raised his head, and the beautiful curve of his jaw filled the entire screen. His eyelashes cast shadows on his fair face like butterflies. This handsomeness. It particularly overflowed from the screen. Chapter 206, Chapter 206, Killing Me. Chapter 206, Killing Me. He Jing's red lips curled up slightly. Not bad. Just a side profile was enough to cause people to fantasize. This scene would surely prick the hearts of Yan Hanshi's fans. However, what happened next was even more spectacular. The girl sitting on the tree swayed, her legs kicking back and forth. In her hands, she held up a book. Cold eyes stared into a young man's, piercing his heart like a sword rod of Cupid's arrow. At that moment, comments flooded the screen. "Old swan, that girl's gaze is killing me." "Sister, use me however you'd like." Chen Qiuyu, who was beside her, giggled into the palm held to her face. "This is amazing. To be expected of you, my dear." He Jing. What happened next was obvious. Like in the video, she jumped from the tree and landed in Yan Hanshi's arms. The two of them looked at each other briefly, and the voice they had added later sounded. "Classmate," Yan Hanshi said gently and lovingly, "it's against the school's rules to climb up on trees." He Jing pushed his hand away and said coldly, "It won't happen again." How arrogant. It was not a polite response. However, for some reason, the comments grew more crazed. "I'll marry the flower on the mountain peak, what kind of cool girl is this? I'm dead, and her back view is also amazing." The confusing comments quickly floated past, occupying the entire screen. He Jing fell silent. She could not understand these people's idea of beauty or the kinds of hobbies they indulged in. Chen Qiuyu was so moved by the comments that tears welled in her eyes. She took He Jing by the arm and said, "Sister, please debut as the main female lead." He Jing felt her lips twitch. She was at a loss. "It's amazing," Chen Qiuyu said without thinking. "Sister Jing, everyone has grown numb, eyeing brother Shi's handsome figure. You're a breath of fresh air, appearing out of nowhere. Now, everyone is looking into you, wondering who you are. You'd best be careful, or boys from the other schools will kidnap you." Probably not. He Jing thought for a moment. "I don't think anyone can compare with Yan Hanshi. Even Yan Hanshi could not move her, so how could anyone abscond with her heart?" "Oh." A familiar, lazy voice sounded from behind her. "Miss Merit student, I didn't expect you to be so appreciative of my looks." The other main character of the promotional MV had appeared. The surrounding students exploded in excited chatter. They were about to faint. It was one thing to watch the music video and another to be able to witness it live. The crowd could not get enough, shipping the two of them together. However, a certain someone was unaware of this. He walked up to He Jing with his bag in one hand and leaned over, his face close to hers. "Good morning," he drawled, his nose almost touching hers. "Good morning, Miss Merit student." He Jing was expressionless. "Speak properly. Don't get so close." Those who did not know better would think that they were kissing. It set an awful precedence. Yan Hanshi looked up, sighing helplessly. He straightened, fishing out a box of yogurt from his bag. "Here, I got this for you. There's no need for you to go out of your way to buy me food every day," He Jing said after a beat of silence. "That doesn't matter, I'm happy to buy things for you." He Jing accepted the yogurt, stuffing it into her bag. The two walked to class together. The surrounding girls were speechless. Awesome. It was eye candy. They, too, pursued He Jing. Chapter 207, Chapter 207, Interrupted. Chapter 207, Interrupted. He Jing was very popular. She received a basket of love letters every day. She did not know where the boys from the nearby schools had gotten their information. When free, they would climb the wall and peep into the school. The boys from Een High School were even more enthusiastic. There were even some who skipped class just to try and catch her eye, causing a scene outside her classroom. They were all caught, of course, and made to stand in the hallway as punishment. The more shameless few even said, "Teacher, please let us stand in the hallway outside of grade 2 class 3. How infuriating. The boys were not even this frantic when she was crowned the school belle. Now, they were acting as if they had lost their minds. When questioned, several of them likened the phenomenon to meeting a famous female celebrity in the entertainment industry. It was the difference between a movie queen and a small beauty pageant. He Jing had always been beautiful. The only thing she lacked was a certain presence in the minds of her peers. Now that she had found a niche in the hearts of her male counterparts, her every action had become an aphrodisiac, drugging those she passed with the memory of that murderous gaze. Perhaps more ridiculous than the boys ogling her were the girls who trailed her like an entourage of imperial maids serving an empress. They all wanted to emulate He Jing. Whether this was a blessing or a curse was up for debate. None of the girls were in the mood for love. All they wanted was to pester He Jing with questions, hoping to learn a few tips and tricks of the trade. With He Jing's sharp uptick in popularity, the school awarded her the scholarship earlier than they had intended. It was safe to say that He Jing had created waves. The school hoped the student population would learn from her example. Indeed, the students descended into a huge learning craze with He Jing as the mascot. It was a wonderful bonus. Inspiring people in the way He Jing had was not something that money could buy. The music video attracted plenty of investors for Een High School. The funds they accumulated were immediately put to use, with the school drawing up plans to build a few more teaching buildings. The next day, He Jing returned home from school to find many new appliances. An air conditioner, a refrigerator, and a new television. He Xiaoguo was overjoyed. Enraptured by the cartoon playing on television, he stared, refusing to do his homework. He Zhou was on the sofa. When He Jing returned, he sniffed disdainfully. What was so great about the new washing machine? Cheng Yi missed them so much that she bought them stuff. "I'm back," He Jing said as she eyed the brand new appliances one by one. He Sui, who thought He Jing was unhappy, murmured, "We didn't ask her to buy them." It went without saying who she referred to. He Jing did not think much of it. Cheng Yi's choices were hers and hers alone. It was nice, however, to save some money. Changing the topic, she asked, "Where's second brother?" He Sui pointed at the kitchen with the glass door closed. Two figures were standing within. He did not know what they were talking about. He Sui grumbled unhappily. "They've been talking for over half an hour and are still not done. What a drag." He Jing could already see it. A light seemed to shine above the secondary male lead and the actual female lead, their relationship rapidly advancing. "Fourth brother, shall we go and listen in on their conversation?" she asked. He Sui's mouth gaped, and he mumbled, "Wouldn't second brother get angry with us?" He Jing returned the look and strode towards the kitchen, looking like a picture of calm. He Zhou watched from where he sat, his expression clouding. However, he knew how close He Ning and Cheng Yi were and did not see a need to intervene. He Jing was asking to be humiliated. Hence, He Jing arrived at the kitchen door uncontested and knocked. Second brother, are you done yet? She asked. It's my turn to cook today. With He Jing's interruption, He Ning and Cheng Yi fell silent, making the atmosphere inside the kitchen awkward. Cheng Yi clenched her fists, resentful but conscious enough not to show it. Why did He Jing have to appear now? Why not earlier or later? Why did she have to ruin everything? She was so close to swaying He Ning to her side. He Ning shook free from the constraints of the strange atmosphere, quickly becoming conscious of their situation. He rubbed the space between his brows and answered, "Yes, we'll be out in a moment." Cheng Yi, since you have someone you like, you can't rely on second brother anymore. After all, we're not actually siblings. You should get your crush to help you move those electrical appliances back. The He family is poor, and we can't afford such luxuries. Chapter 208, Chapter 208, Disillusioned. Chapter 208, Disillusioned. Cheng Yi refused to stop there. She closed the distance, tears in her eyes. "Second brother, are you really going to have nothing to do with me now that I'm a part of the Qing family?" He Ning pursed his lips, not being too quick to respond. "He Jing has cut ties with the Qing family," he said seriously. "She has no wealth, and the parents who used to love her have turned their backs on her. She needs someone to be there for her. I have to consider what is right between you and He Jing." This was the right thing to do. It was only fair considering He Jing's unwavering decision to remain with the He family. Cheng Yi was hurt. She chewed on her lip, tears spilling forth. "Even if you want to prioritize Sister He Jing's feelings over mine, you don't need to draw such a clear line between us. I just want to repay second brother for taking care of me all these years." He Ning sighed and patted her head gently. "Don't be sad. Go back. Your parents might get upset if you are too close to the He family." Cheng Yi could not accept it. "We used to be so close," the words tumbling out unbidden. "Is it because I like someone else that?" "Second brother." He Ning jolted in panic, but he quickly reined in his emotions. "Xiao Yi, don't talk nonsense. We're still siblings." "But, second brother, I don't understand. How did things come to this? Had He Jing replaced her in his heart already?" He Ning closed his eyes and heaved a long sigh. It was as Cheng Yi had said. Since she had someone else she liked and could rely on, he should distance himself to prevent any impure thoughts from forming. He had grown up with Cheng Yi. She had always been that ray of light illuminating the dark fog that clung to him. However, Cheng Yi had her own life, and he could not always rely on her forever. It was time for him to become the light to illuminate the life of another. "Xiao Yi, please go home." "Second brother." Suddenly, the glass door swung open. "Second brother, I'm hungry." An annoying voice Cheng Yi could only attribute to one person interrupted them again. Cheng Yi trembled with rage. He Ning sighed and gently patted her head. "Xiao Yi, don't think too much. Go home." He Ning stepped out of the kitchen, the glass door swinging shut behind him. Cheng Yi had no choice but to accept that her plan to make up with him had been ruined. She ran out crying and almost bumped into He Jing at the door. He Jing followed Cheng Yi's flight with a hawk's focus. Cheng Yi did not look back. Turning to He Ning, she joked, "So, second brother, what were you chatting with Sister Cheng Yi about?" "Nothing much, just some nonsense," He Ning answered. "You're not the one cooking today. It's sixth brother's turn today," he reminded her, almost as an afterthought. He Jing's red lips curled up. She did not feel guilty at all. "Oh, I'm sorry. My mistake." He Ning couldn't help but glance at her. He frowned. "Don't come up with such a lame excuse next time." "All right, second brother." It was a miracle He Ning had not lost his temper after she had interrupted him and Cheng Yi not once but twice. Even He Sui was stunned. He Ning had always sided with Cheng Yi. If anything happened to Cheng Yi, he would always be the first to defend her. "He Jing is the best." He Sui leaned over and said, "He Jing, you are the ninth wonder of the world." He Jing hummed and smiled. "Second brother may seem very cold, but he's actually very sweet." He Sui was horrified. He Ning. Sweet. Those two words did not go together. He Zhou saw Cheng Yi run out of the He family with her face covered while He Jing was in high spirits. His face morphed into a rictus of anger. He had thought Cheng Yi would get back at He Jing. Who could have known she would be soundly defeated? It seemed he had underestimated her. He had to do something. If he could earn some money and balance out the benefits He Jing brought to the He family, his brothers, who were simple and easy to satisfy, would probably wake up. Chapter 209, Chapter 209, Negotiations. Chapter 209, Negotiations. It was a quiet weekend. The following Monday, He Jing made breakfast for everyone before taking the bus to Yin High School. As soon as she arrived at the school, someone stopped her. He Jing looked up and saw that it was Zhou Shuer. He Jing, do you still remember what you promised me? Zhou Shuer asked. Zhou Shuer knew He Jing had forgotten. She gritted her teeth and said, my dad wanted to see you. You agreed. We even added each other on WeChat. Has your father come back from abroad? He Ting asked. Zhou Shuer said, he flew back a long time ago. He's just busy and didn't let me contact you. Can you meet him after school? He Jing nodded and replied straightforwardly, okay. In a quiet cafe, a well-dressed middle-aged man and a beautiful girl looked at each other. The pianist in the corner was playing a piece of Ukrainian Rhapsody. Zhou Shuer stood outside the cafe and peered inside. Neither party seemed inclined to speak much. They merely drank, having their coffees refilled from time to time. What were they doing? Was her father dissatisfied with He Jing? If he was, why did he want to meet He Jing? Little did she know that Mr. Zhou was extremely satisfied with He Jing. She was so calm at such a young age. It was no wonder she could attain full marks in her cooking evaluations. He retrieved a stack of documents from his suitcase and pushed it toward He Jing. I asked Shuer to invite you for a chat because I have something I'd like to ask for your help with. He Jing knew what Zhou Shuer's father wanted. Otherwise, she would not be sitting here. What is it, uncle? Please tell me, she implored, unwilling to drag the issue out any longer. I want Missy to help me win a competition, Mr. Zhou said. Missy will be rewarded handsomely upon its completion. He Jing smiled. I'm just a student. Uncle thinks too highly of me. It was neither an acceptance nor rejection. Mr. Zhou seemed to have expected this situation. He gestured at the stack of documents and said, Missy, please have a look before you reject me. I'll await your reply. Please send it to me within 3 days. Without waiting for He Jing to agree, he paid the bill and left. He Jing was left alone in her seat. He Jing sat there for a while before picking up the documents. Under the stack of papers was an envelope, which she opened. It was a check for 200,000 yuan. For a student, it was a huge sum of money. He Jing flipped through the documents, glancing at them briefly before putting them in her bag. Zhou Shuer was outside the cafe, waiting. When He Jing exited, she immediately approached her and asked, so, how was it? What are you still doing here? He Jing squinted at her schoolmate. My dad's gone back to the company. I'm waiting for my chauffeur to pick me up, Zhou Shuer answered hastily. He Jing raised her bag containing the documents and said, I'll think about it. Don't get your hopes up. Zhou Shuer was speechless. He Jing spent 2 days seriously considering the offer. To be honest, she had just received a scholarship and did not lack money at all. There was no need for her to take on this job. He Ning said that a student should behave like a student. He would probably be disappointed knowing she was not studying hard and secretly earning money. Hence, He Jing decided not to get involved in this mess. Having made her decision, He Jing threw everything else to the back burner. After school, He Jing took a detour to the market to buy ingredients she would need for that night's dinner. After which, she would look for He Ning and He Sui. She never expected to bump into He Zhou at the market. Part 9 of the series ends here. Thank you for watching and listening. If you find it interesting, please give us a like, a comment and a subscription so that we have the motivation to make the next videos.